The motorcycle market in 2025 is collapsing faster than most people realize. Over 45,000 brand new bikes are sitting idle at dealerships across the country, gathering dust, and these aren't fresh arrivals either. They've been left unsold for more than 200 days. Let's start with Harley-Davidson, the so-called iconic American brand, once seen as the symbol of rebellion, freedom, and toughness every time one of their engines roared to life. So here we are in 2025, and Harley's big ride looks like it's running out of gas. They're producing 25% fewer bikes, yet dealerships are still overflowing with inventory, almost like they're stockpiling engines for some apocalypse. It's laughable. Just look at the prices. The so-called entry models, like the Nightster, now range from $12,000 to $15,500, which used to be considered affordable. Touring models, like the Road Glide or Street Glide, were about $22,000 back in 2019. Now they've climbed past $30,000, with some pushing close to $35,000. That's luxury car money for just a motorcycle. And you'd think at those prices they'd be leading with cutting-edge technology, but they're not. Harley is still sticking with their old Milwaukee 8 engine as if it's groundbreaking. Meanwhile, competitors are moving forward with liquid-cooled engines, modern digital displays, and advanced safety features. Basically the kind of tech that's standard for 2025. Harley, on the other hand, is stuck acting like it's still 1998 and hoping riders won't call them out on it. Remember Harley-Davidson's Livewire? It was their big move into electric motorcycles priced at $30,000. The problem was, almost no one wanted such an expensive electric bike, and sales were a disaster. The failure was so bad that Harley spun it off into its own brand, almost like they were trying to hide what went wrong. What it really showed was how little Harley understands younger buyers. The older riders who loved loud, heavy motorcycles are mostly gone. Younger people aren't about to drop $30,000 just for a Harley badge and some shiny extras. Even when Harley tried updating with the Pan America and Sportster S, using the new Revolution Max engine, they barely marketed them. It felt like they just said, here are some new bikes. Without really committing, the whole approach came across like selling a modern toaster with Bluetooth, but still packing it in a box from the 1940s. Now let's look at Indian. They returned to the scene, and for a moment, it looked like they might actually rival Harley-Davidson, but they've slipped back into old mistakes. Production has been cut down, dealerships feel empty, and the energy around the brand has faded. In 2023, they made a move that shocked fans. They replaced the iconic colorful headdress logo with a bland, corporate-looking design that lacked personality. The reaction online was fierce. Forums lit up with anger, with riders calling it a misstep, a betrayal, and proof the brand had lost its direction. It came across like destroying their identity in a single presentation. And then, of course, there's the issue of cost. The Scout, once considered an entry-level motorcycle, now sells for anywhere between $12,000 and $15,000. At that price, what does beginner bike even mean anymore? That's the kind of money people could use for rent, groceries, or even a used car. Even though Indian has refreshed models like the FTR, they still struggle to bring in buyers because their dealership network is so small. If something goes wrong with your bike, it's tough to track down parts or find a mechanic who actually knows how to fix it. Their marketing only adds to the problem. One ad tries to sell classic American freedom with leather jackets, while the next shows a sleek city rider. Mixing old school imagery with modern racing themes just leaves people confused. It's unclear what identity Indian is really pushing, and when you're selling not just motorcycles, but also a lifestyle, sending mixed signals can do serious damage. If you're entertained by how bad this is getting, hit subscribe, because the failures aren't stopping here. You'll want to see which brand collapses next. Just when it seemed like Harley-Davidson and Indian were the only motorcycle brands weighed down by inflated prices, BMW shows they're in trouble too. Even the German company, known for precision and performance, is now caught up in the challenges facing the motorcycle market in 2025. You might think a brand built on engineering excellence would be safe, but that's not the reality. The GS Adventure Series now begins at more than $22,500, and that's only the starting figure. Add a few extras, and the price quickly rises higher than many used cars. Even BMW's strong reputation isn't enough to move bikes, and dealerships are left with unsold inventory piling up just like Harley and Indian. To cope, dealers are slashing prices with discounts that feel like Black Friday deals. Cuts of $5,000 to $8,000 from the original price still aren't pulling buyers in. Riders who financed these expensive motorcycles in 2023 or 2024 are now dealing with the shock of massive payments on bikes that have already lost 30% of their value. A drop that steep goes far beyond normal depreciation. It feels like ownership, but in reality, the value has slipped away. On top of that, interest rates remain high, over 9%, so buyers are paying even more for motorcycles worth far less. For investors, this may look like a win, but for riders and dealers, it's a harsh situation. Let's talk about brands that were once considered unshakable, like Honda. This is the company that built its name on being affordable, practical, and reliable, but even Honda hasn't escaped the impact of rising prices. The Africa Twin, their well-known adventure bike that used to sell for around $13,300, now costs over $16,000 before adding any extras. The value that once defined Honda has disappeared. Because of these higher costs, sales are slowing down. The biggest issue is with new riders, the group Honda always depended on, who are now struggling to secure financing. These buyers just wanted a trustworthy bike at a fair price, but with steep interest rates and stricter loan requirements, many can't even qualify. Honda once stood out as the clear, simple option when everything else felt too expensive or complicated. Today, it's become just another brand that people glance at but ultimately pass by. Yamaha, once praised for mixing solid technology with fair pricing, has lost the advantage it used to have. Their mid-range models, which were once seen as the perfect balance of power and practicality, are now facing the same struggles as every other brand. The used market is overcrowded, financing has become harder to get, and even Yamaha's reputation for innovation isn't helping in showrooms. Inventory keeps piling up, while cash buyers are almost non-existent. Discounts are being offered, but they're failing to move bikes off the floor. Dealers are left without calls or sales. The machines themselves are still strong, but demand has dried up because the market is unstable and prices continue to rise. Yamaha believed being the smart, dependable option would keep them safe, but that strategy has fallen apart. They were once known as the reliable choice, offering fair costs and fresh features. Now, in 2025, they're struggling just like everyone else. Their mid-range models sit untouched while buyers turn to the flood of used bikes instead. With fewer cash buyers and tougher financing, Yamaha's sales have slowed sharply. Dealers keep throwing out incentives and offers, but customers are waiting for bigger price drops. The result is a buildup of unsold motorcycles and a brand left questioning why buyers no longer seem interested. Let's talk about Ducati, the high-end sport bike maker that believed exclusivity would shield them from financial trouble. The idea was simple. If their machines stayed expensive and rare, the brand would always carry prestige. But the reality has been very different. That premium reputation has now backfired. The bikes cost too much, lenders are reluctant to finance them, and the audience Ducati has long relied on. Those who crave speed and the thrill of showing off the brand either can't afford the payments anymore or simply don't see the sense in dropping $30,000 on a motorcycle that loses nearly a third of its value the moment it leaves the dealership. It's a hard truth for owners too. Many who bought a Ducati in 2023 are already underwater, owing more on their loan than the bike is actually worth. What should have been a luxury purchase has become a financial burden. Dealers, once proud of Ducati's "we don't discount" stance, are now slashing prices, offering incentives, and even pushing 0% financing just to slow down the losses. The image of exclusivity is gone, replaced by a scramble to move inventory. The Panigale, once Ducati's poster child of performance, is now being aggressively pushed because the company needs sales just to stay afloat. But each month, the financial strain is becoming harder to ignore. This isn't just Ducati's problem either. Harley-Davidson and Indian are also watching their popularity slip away, while BMW and Ducati both wrestle with the damage caused by overpriced financing and shrinking demand. For dealerships, the challenges keep piling up. They're trying to keep price-conscious customers from walking away, but repossessions have jumped 28% compared to last year, a clear sign of rising instability. Loan approvals are tougher too, with about 1 in 5 applications being denied outright. On top of that, brand loyalty has weakened. Riders aren't waiting around for things to get better. They're selling off their bikes, defaulting on loans, or abandoning the market entirely. Dealers are left with showrooms full of motorcycles they can't move, resorting to deep discounts, giveaways, and zero-interest offers that aren't enough to turn the tide. The oversupply keeps growing, and the financial situation is becoming dangerously severe. Let's take a closer look at Suzuki, a brand whose slow decline has slipped under the radar for many people. For years, it seemed like the legendary Hayabusa might keep their reputation alive, but that hasn't been the case. Once viewed as a dream bike, priced around $14,000, it has now climbed close to $19,000, and that kind of jump makes it harder for new riders and longtime fans to justify the purchase. What's worse is that Suzuki's broader lineup doesn't deliver enough excitement or innovation to back up those rising costs. At the same time, their bikes aren't cheap enough to fight against more budget-friendly competitors. This leaves Suzuki stuck in an uncomfortable middle ground. They're not leading with performance, they're not winning with affordability, and their limited variety doesn't inspire much loyalty. As a result, the brand risks being ignored, priced out, and eventually forgotten in the highly competitive motorcycle market of 2025. The future doesn't look bright, and unless Suzuki finds a way to reinvent itself, they may fade into irrelevance. Stick around and subscribe so you don't miss what could be the next big story of failure in the motorcycle industry.